So I'd like to call this special meeting, tri-board meeting, Columbia Board of Selectmen, Columbia Board of Education, and the Columbia Financial Planning and Allocation Commission, Wednesday, December 17th, 2025. This is also being computer, if anybody is on there and have input, probably not gonna call you because this is the tri-board, so you're there to listen. But whatever happens in here, please be respectful, back and forth. If you have a question, ask the question. Please be as precise as you can, and if you're asked a question, do the very best to be factual, and respectful. I say that at every meeting, it's 2 years ago now. So our first order, would you please rise and join in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Everybody have a chance to take a look at the agenda? So this is a board of selectmen meeting with invited people, so we approve the agenda. Who's voting? Good question. Anybody have any problem with the agenda? All those in favor? Aye, perfect. Again, report. All right, this is where I get to talking. Kelly rolls her eyes at me after 20 minutes. So this used to be my favorite time of year, and then about 3 years ago, it became a little difficult. We have a hell of a job to do. Everybody who sits on these boards, especially this budget season. The way the economy is, the way the people are, the way we're having people walk into senior center saying, I need help with oil, I need help with food, I need help with everything. It's more now than ever before. Federal government's not doing us any favors, the state keeps jamming at us and costing us money. And then we have to tell our citizens, we did the best we can, and we're only gonna raise your taxes X amount of dollars. It's a tough pill to swallow. When I go down to the assessor and there's a gentleman down there who's 80 years old and telling the assessor he can't afford his taxes from his house that he's had for 100 years, him and his family. Because he only has a social security check for about $16,000 for the year. We have a lot of people that are land rich, but money poor. Because they've been in this town for a long time, and there's a reason for that, they love this town. And there's a reason we serve, we love the town. Okay? It's not gonna be easy. It seems to get worse every year. I gotta tell you, good news is Mark and I have been sitting down with the engineers, we've been going over some of the infrastructure. The items for culverts and bridges and roads and stuff. We're getting some better than anticipated numbers. Okay, that's today. Something happens tomorrow, then we can go through the loop again, we're pulling out the school. The HVAC system over there. It's gonna be over budget, already over time. We signed the contract, it was over time. Don't be surprised when the numbers come in. But in the end, we still have to provide services, we still have to provide an education. We still have to take care of infrastructure. That's up to us to do it in a fiscally responsible manner. I know you have wants. If we can just get to the needs, we'll be real happy. Okay, fire department has already came to us and they've dropped some of the things that they're looking for, which is good, by rolling their equipment a little bit better. So that's good. And everybody's gonna have to tighten their strings a little bit. What we need to provide the level that people expect here. That's what I'm asking. So That's it for tonight, and for the new members, for those of you that are here. Have fun. Kinda, you can, I mean, it really is. Working with other groups, working knowledge and stuff. There's gonna be times when it's contentious. Please be respectful. Okay? So, that's all I have. Let's get started.
And for all the members, I just wanted to say, we're having trouble with our power. And last night it was. The video was going out, but we still had audio, so if it all of a sudden goes out, we just keep the meeting going, as we've got a ticketing notice to try to reset, so we just saw what's the one.
Now it's my turn.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, just so everybody has it, everything in their packet. We want to see with the budget schedule. So you would have kind of have an idea of what the dates and the times and meetings and questions. But not in here is the Board of Ed, but it's pretty much their regular meetings, and usually like the town budget workshops are on Tuesday, there's gonna probably on a Monday. And they set their schedule, so that'll come out when it's ready. So on that side, and with that, I can start getting into the review of the 24-25 revenues and benefits. We'll start with the town as well as we have. Short of the packet is to say that town will not get actual revenue benefits to 24-25. It's not something for last year, the total plus the people put back in the general fund was only over $436,000. Our property collection is doing well. Current year taxes for last year was almost $119,000 above budget. And our delinquent property taxes been collected over almost 140,000 more than anticipated.
We have that piece of paper.
Yes.
Right, and there's the union, we break it.
Yeah, turn off the fans so we don't. Have like a little run of the town.
As I said, the current property tax came in about $193,000 more than anticipated. Delinquent taxes came in about $140,000 more than anticipated. Your property tax increase was almost $17,000 above what we anticipated. ECS, our education cost share grant, came in over $8,600 more than anticipated. I think that's because the state adjusted it back to what it was the year before. So they changed it once they set the budget last year. Our investments with the short-term investments with the state of Connecticut, we received an extra $20,000 on our investments. We did receive finally the Hunt Road Culvert Deep grant, which was $128,000. That project was finished, probably a year ago. And so we couldn't get that fund until the project was finished. We did have a court judgment of about $17,000. Real estate commitments, which has to do with there's closings on properties. Again, that was over $17,000 more than budgeted. Our permits, building permits did well. It was almost over $66,000 above budget. And then we did have finally finish all the American Relief Fund projects. So I closed out that fund and interest earned on the $1.5 million was about $64,000 that went back into the general fund. There was some shortages and, things didn't come above budget. One of them was a special ed grant, came in a little under 18,000. That's because there was a change in some of the eligible costs with the state. Instead of being above 90,000, the cost came in under 90, so they were ineligible for being reimbursed. And then preschool, there was some changes in that, so we didn't get as much funding in, preschool tuition. Yes, Steve?
Who pays for who pays for preschool?
Parents. It's usually the regular ed students.
And we're 30,000 short.
There's been some changes, there was changes during the years, there's portability factor from some, how we got a discount and. So, it just came in a little, came in under.
So these are net changes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any questions on the revenues? Okay. Then I'll move on to the next, report, which is the town of Columbia actual and budget expenses and then conference report, for last year. The town expenditures for last year in the general fund came to $477,000 being returned to the general fund. A good portion of that came to, was $167,000 was for salaries. There were a number of turnovers last year and unfilled positions. We got some state grants for the, registrar of voters and the election workers. That covered some of the costs. We did have an unpaid leave. We also had, health insurance benefits. There was either changes or people didn't take the insurance, and that's what saved the town about $53,000. There were some other employment benefits, including unemployment and working comp and some of the pension we got for 457. There was a savings of 28,000. We have a new resident trooper, which is a little less than the cost of the previous one. That was a savings to the town of about $30,000. It looks like Casella Waste came in last, about 18,000. And then we also had renegotiated a new fuel contract, and that was about savings of $19,000 to the town. And we had leftover contingency funds of 10,000, and that all went back into the general fund. Any questions on both? Yeah, I'm just gonna highlight things, I'm not gonna go line by line. The next report, the last is capital, which lists all the capital projects that we have completed or processed last year. I'm not gonna get into the details of a lot of them, they're self-explanatory. If you have questions later, we can always send out, there's a bit of detail on future meetings of what's involved in the capital line. But I just wanna let you know that, basically, at the end of last year, we had over $6 million, $0.6 million in the capital reserve fund. Fund current projects and some future projects that are being planned. That includes road resurfacing, through and just so you know, in capital this year, we had 2 general fund transfers. One was $263,000 for COVID replacements, that was the Mock Road and
I'm Thompson.
Thompson Hill, yeah, so those projects,
That's Thompsonville.
Mock Road and.
Mark Road and Cardsville.
Oh, for the two silk lines?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's not being,
perfect. Those projects have been completed. There was things left over that, and I'll explain later that the fund was moved to facilities for other projects, for that. There was also last year to keep the HVAC project going. There was a town meeting to allocate another $499,000 to the HVAC project. That was before, so we can keep going before we went out and finish up for financing. Then we'll keep that all going. Now we have the Board of Education. And that's the same thing like the town, the actual budget expenditures and funding report. So as of June 30, 2025, the Board of Education gave back to the town over $392,000. 81,000 of that had to do with savings in the staffing line. There was some changes in salaries and stuff, so or staffing, so that saved $81,000. With some of that changing, less people took the health benefits, so that was a savings of $140,000. In the year before, there had been some reduction in staff, so there was an anticipation of unemployment for some of those staff that will let go. There wasn't there was no unemployment or minimum unemployment benefits applied for, so $36,000 was returned to the town. Tuition also came in less than anticipated. Mostly because of changes in special ed and I think less enrolled in the high school. So that was about $62,000 that came back to the town. And then fuel again, we had savings over $4,000. And then there was IT equipment, $59,000 came back to the town. And part of that had to do with the deep grant school gets. They use it for classroom technology. So there was savings in that, so that was, we used the grant instead of using the quarterly budget. And then just to tie in with that, yeah, so any questions on the Board of Expenditures spending? The next report, let's see in the packet, is the one of their grants for last year. They budgeted about $306,000. The Board of Ed actually $364,000. There were a couple of grants that came up last year, so they applied for it. One was the paraeducator training, actually a couple training grants, 12,000. There was one that helped with some transitional services for 3,000, and there was leftover money carried forward for a right to read for curriculum items of 11,000. And then there was also, we got our usual, which isn't always budgeted because it's, I'm never sure we're getting it, it's due sort of bureau grant 21,000. So the, but everything that came in last year has been spent, and normal funds are returned to the state once the grant expired, so 100% usage there. Well. Questions on that? That's all last year's unless somebody had a quick synopsis, but everyone has questions on that?
So all in all, last year off of what we thought we were gonna have to spend. We spent $1.3 million less,
Yeah,
that goes to the general fund.
yes. Board of Education opted not to put in for the funds when they're not lots in account, so everything was returned to the general. Okay.
Okay with me? Right?
All right, and then.
All right.
Next on the agenda is 25-26 revenues and expenditures. First thing on there is about the state budget. We haven't received really any information about this year's state budget. These, before we see all the grants that the town has been getting, we haven't heard otherwise. We haven't received any of this, all the things yet. I know there was a delay in some of the student grants this year, but they're all starting to get, that we got much approval, go ahead, start asking for the funds, so we did. This month there was about, besides the meat grant, we received over $100,000 for the Board of Ed so far this year, and we're gonna have probably about another half of that still to come into this machine, so they're in good shape. I haven't seen the ECS, education posture grant, usually that starts coming in the end of December, along with a few other grants, so hopefully by next month we see some revenues on the state come on for that. We did get our town aid roof grant. And the state surprised us by, allocating an additional 30%, so an additional $30,000 came in for town aid roof. So they're in the process of sending that in. But on that, I don't think, did you hear anything more about any changes to state budget? No, that's all, we've got more information. We won't know about the next year's grant until probably February, at least, so, and I think this is the second year of the state budget. Yeah, so there'll be no, hopefully not much changes. With that, I'll go into the, towns. Start with the town's actual anticipated revenue, report. Right now, it looks like the town is doing pretty good. They've received over $10 million. A lot of that is the first installment of the property tax, which includes motor vehicle. It looks like they, received more than 50% in the collection, which is pretty good. And I think in the delinquent taxes, we have budgeted 95, and so far $84,000 in delinquent tax has been collected, so the tax collectors downstairs have been quite busy doing their job, so congratulations them. As you pay your taxes, connect yourself. I think, let's see, so we haven't gotten that yet, so basically looking at everything else, I don't anticipate any other issues with the town revenue coming in. I think all the building permits are doing well. I continue to. We budgeted 95 and almost 56,000 has come in, so the state, the town fees are coming in pretty regularly too, so. I think the town is in good shape revenue wise, this year, and I don't anticipate there's gonna be a concern about this year. Any questions?
Commercial construction will help from fees from car dealerships and.
Did you say what the general fund was going, what you believe it's at now? Did you say that?
No, that's probably done. That's probably gonna be. Yeah.
Yeah, probably is.
Next is the town's actual and budget expenditure report, which shows everything that's pretty much posted up to yesterday. It's too early to predict everything, but, so far this year, nobody's come in with any concerns or surprises for us that we need to look for a general fund transfer into the, general fund budget. I think most of the spending has come in within past, nobody needs, like I said. But we still have some openings still, but with no concerns, I don't think at this time it should go into too much detail on the budget unless somebody has questions on it. We're not even halfway through the year. No questions, I'll just keep moving. The next one, again, next report is this year's capital. Our current balance from capital is $2.2 million. There, you'll see on the report, there is one project that is over budget by about $1,300. There's some work being done on the dam. We're gonna see some of that may get allocated to the general fund, or may later in the year to a town meeting to put more funds into that line. Waiting to find out if there's some extra work that needs to be done on the dam. Mark may put place on that later when we talk about long-term plans. You will see there's been a transfer from box culverts to facilities. That $105,000 is extra money left over from the slip line project. Funds were not needed, but we have numerous facility or building projects that needed to be done. Was a heating system at the senior center, HVAC at the senior center, HVAC at the chapel. A new roof repair at the Public Works Garage, electrical. Upgrade at Cedar Farm and. Fire protection system at the fire department. I think most of the projects have been completed. The extra 50,000 you'll see the facility line is double fund transfer this year in order to make sure we have enough funds to cover all the projects. But most of them have been done and completed. I think that's pretty much it for capital. I think most of the projects that have been budgeted, they're in the works, or I wait till the spring at this point. Yes.
What is the chapel?
It's the little bookhouse.
Door,
Next to the across from the library.
we lost the heating system.
Sure, final here at the HVAC project. Is that the school one or just the other town HVAC? The project is still in process.
That's the school.
The school, that's the school.
Yeah, so the school HVAC project is in process. There have been multiple delays between engineering, design, contracting, just trying to get it continued through. The staff has been pretty good at order to accommodate the open construction area. I did just made a submission to the state of Connecticut. So hopefully they will approve the $1.6 million as a grant reimbursement, because we already spent about probably half.
So that 1.6 is above and beyond what they awarded us?
No, it's part of it.
Oh,
We have a grant, $3 dollars, and I submitted over $2 million of contractors' bills to them. And we get 52.14% reimbursement, so hopefully 1.6 from the. I don't know how long that's gonna take, they said it shouldn't take that long, but, I'll double check with them, probably in January, say, hey. I also submitted today the extension on the grant, since it's expiring at the end of this month. I did send them an email requesting confirmation, they did receive the request, they did, but they can't give me a timeline on when they're gonna approve it, so. Apparently there's a review process on this one.
Is it because they give you like so much upfront and then they give you the rest afterwards?
No, we have to submit actual paid receipts and check registers and cancel checks and all gets uploaded to them, and then they review it, and then they'll decide whether they agree with the submission and back. If they've gotten detailed, I make sure they got detailed with everything, so I don't anticipate. We should have more than enough with the contractor, because the contractor's, contract was like $7 million. And we should be able to spend over $6 million. So we can see,
If they haven't extended the grant at the end of December, is it?
what happens to the project managers
Go there.
more likely, we'll probably have to have a discussion. The project's underway, so it's whether we'll have to figure out how we're gonna pay for it, which we'll probably look for other grant funding. Or we're going to have to bond for more. But we're not bonding until the project is complete anyway, because we need to have final costs for that.
Do we, Mark, do you have any idea how many towns are in our situation?
Most. Again,
Okay, so with Senator Ross, I met with her a couple of times. She understands what's going on. I think we need to have a sit down with her first of the year and just say, hey, listen, we kept you abreast of what's going on. Here it is now. We've submitted our request for $1.6 million. They said, and the extension of the project. Yes, we just need to keep her posted on that. And then after a discussion with her, we send her a letter or an email saying the same exact thing, so we get it, electronic acknowledgement. She has said numerous times, I don't think she'll be able to do it, but she would like to submit for. Additional grant funding because the project, the engineering cost that was. Laid out to us initially came in. Well below what the, first of all, the bids were anyway, and you know, like everybody, she doesn't think it's fair, of course, but I think we need to keep her involved an awful lot more. I don't see why we wouldn't get the 1.6, but the state does funny things, and we should let her know about it, probably right away.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty good about the submissions I made where they've given what we've asked for, so. But we'll have to wait and see, we will know in January.
But is the project moving along now?
So,
The snail's pace.
Is it, what is that, but it's moving.
What happens, you said that obviously if it doesn't get approved, there's contingency plans to maybe go for another grant or so forth, but. What happens with the deadline if they don't approve that deadline, but they're looking at potentially giving you the grant? How does all that work out?
well, the grant has been awarded and I submitted what we've completed or whatever, paid.
The 1.6, I mean.
Yeah, so I would hope that they're gonna honor that, because I got it in before December 31. So, but again, it's all wait and see.
So you had conversations with the state and they indicate that should be fine.
Yes, and also our council has already said to us, the extension goes from the date you file it, so it's filing at the last possible moment to get the longest extension. That's why we have just put that in, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so we're
I
fine.
wait for the holidays coming up, I didn't wanna wait too much.
That's
longer.
fine. Oh, I wouldn't have waited, you know, I wouldn't have done a lot of things, yes, but the bottom line is our extension request is in. They know about what's going on. We have council that's helping us with the project. It's at a snail's pace, but it is moving. I really, it's an election year. I really don't think that, you know, we want to be on the front page bitching and moaning because honestly, I'm ready. This is ridiculous. They said it's nothing of our fault that we've done. We had an engineer, we got contractors, and all of a sudden, you know, once they unearthed the ceiling tiles, they realized, oh, this is the real bad job, kind of all the way around. So I don't know where this, I would like to say, the concern that Bev is showing is,
Just trying to be open.
yes,
Just trying to be open.
I'm not that. I'm not that.
Is there a new deadline that?
The grant is, once it's approved, it's a 1-year extension, so I don't know if it's from the day I file or the date they approve it, so.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
so
when-
I'm thinking we have until December 31, 2026. At the latest, so the hope is the project will be done by early fall. And,
I guess from the day you file, because if it's the day you approve it, it'll be like 9 days.
yeah, yeah, that's why I make sure I send an email and say, I want to make sure you see it, and they acknowledge it. Yeah. Any questions on there is a small report, I can figure out how to see a little bit of how much we spent in the contractor so far this year, and that's what I couldn't really spent over like $3.1 million, just a FYI for everybody, so you can see. What we spent on HVAC so far this year. Alright, I'll just move on to the
Is that,
organization budget. Should active budget percent through this fiscal and 6 encumbrance of the June.
hold on, I'm sorry.
That is the one, which we say 3.1, they're not gonna be getting back with that one, right? Because we say,
So she said, you said we spent $3 million already?
Yeah,
What was the word that much?
that is coming from the dance and the short-term financing money and things and that.
How much did we short-term finance? All of it?
5.5 million.
5.5 million, and we spent 3.1. And we've gotten nothing yet from the state? Or did we get the first initial 1.6?
It's 5 million.
Okay, that's what you filed for, the initial 1.6. I'd like to know what that 3.1 represents in the overall job.
I would say more.
A lot of it is design.
No, it's all- The general fund is funding the engineering and design. The project manager, the commissioning agent. And,
All the equipment,
yes, and all the electrical equipment.
it's all stored.
So we did not motion to have that reimbursed by the grant. So we can't get that reimbursed, but so we're applying all the grant towards the save from our contracts instead of $7.7 million from that. And that makes it easier, but then
So in the end, where do we think this price tag is gonna come in?
it was about $9 million.
That's been much confusing.
Yeah, depending on contingency could be about $9 million and all over everything.
Could be more.
Depends on what's going on, yeah.
Think about it.
The next is the Board of Education. Budget this year, and what they got posted to yesterday. And just like the town, it's a little story to predict. But, Barbara has figured out some things in a while about the budget. So far, usually it looks like that the board of education is running on in five plus been budgeted. There seems to be no major issues that have come up to counter their current budget. So, unless something happens next couple months, as far as the touch base on a few changes that so far we're doing fine. Like I said, this last time. There have been some turnover and changes, but we've been able to employ staff at the school right now. Questions on board of that or anything? The next on the list is the quick report I did on the current year grants. We did budget $305,000. It hasn't been really any grants that have come up. Keep an eye out on it. Usually the grants are still notified far from Central Director or me if there's some new grants. So far, nothing's really come up yet that you can apply for. So for now, I think everything's coming in except 3 grants did come in a little short, which is the IBA and the IBA ones. It's short by $8,500 this year. And the B grant came in about $1,200, but I don't think it's going to be a major impact on the budget, so we're doing okay. And I will let them know also with the Board of Education that we got a little surprise this week. 2 years ago, when Scott was here, Mike Sylvester and I. Yeah, you were looking at it too. We have applied for they still have some security money left over. So they said we can go back and apply for more funds, because we had used it for the door project that they had over there. So we submitted, we went through a number of years, they said you can go back and fire your street. So we came up with about $190,000 worth of expenditures for security upgrades at the school. First, we were told, sorry, it's too much money, not getting it. Well, on Monday, we got a nice grant award of received half of that, about $92,000 coming to the town. So we're in the process of reviewing the award letter. And then we're gonna submit whatever. Luckily, we kept the records because we thought, oh, this is a done deal. But we did keep the records of all the receipts and stuff, so we're gonna try to submit and get those funds in, and it'll probably end up in the general fund for that, so it's a nice little windfall, not anticipated, so. Here, let everybody know there's that positive coming in this year. A nice surprise from the state, so it sounds like other school districts did not apply for those funds, so. They thought that the place still had some money, so they decided they're gonna go back to those they said no to, and we're gonna get some money.
So it was like 52%
Yeah,
of reimbursement.
Yeah, very nice. First, we're like, is this legit? But.
We didn't ask you to send them money first.
And they're not sharing. Yes, we are good. We're good. So that. Pretty much, covers, this year's budget. So, just a little synopsis of this year's budget so far. Right now, I think we're doing okay budget wise, but no major concerns. I guess we can move on to the key issues impacting the 26-27 budgets. One of the first things on the list is has to do with the tax base and parameters. Very hard,
Where are we looking?
we're on section 8 of the agenda. So we're not necessarily gonna have the handout, so I'm just gonna go with one, section 8, and it has to be the grand list. We said the assessor is working on the grand list, probably mid-January maybe. We may have to report to issue, I don't think there's any concerns this year. There was no changes in the calculations as far as we know.
Like you said, the automobile should, we took a hit last year, so that should be level at that. I mean, we've had some assessment increases in, she's involved in a statistical analysis of all of our properties.
do that.
Do that. It's not the full reval where you go door to door, it's more you put all your housing stock and commercial into a model, and it spits back based upon an analysis of like type construction houses of what we value should be. So we're waiting for that.
So we're asking AI or a computer to tell us what our.
It's a company, it's a reval company that they model our town based upon everything, and plug all of our data in, give back us evaluation.
Isn't the best thing what our houses are worth or what people are paying for?
We've talked to
Never mind.
Mary about how we
Retract my comment.
Doesn't always make sense.
No, it doesn't to me, because if somebody's happy to pay it, that's what it's worth. Please continue.
It's all.
The tax collector rate, I don't have the exact amount, but it looks like for last year, she probably had a 98 to 99% collection rate, which is continues with our usual trend. As I mentioned earlier, we probably collected over 58% of our current year taxes, so again, collections is doing very well. She is also, Dennis has hired a collection agent, so some of the delinquents or suspense people. So they've been able to bring in some money from those people who have moved out of town and sent them notices, and she has collected some good money back, for the town. So bravo to them. Debt payments. There's an anticipation in this around June that we're gonna owe over $200,000 for the short-term financing that we put in for the HVAC grant. We may be putting in an extension on the bans because of the HVAC project. So we're not sure if that means that we have to put in a payment, or we can delay the payment into next year. We'll probably have more information on that. Probably next couple months, we may even bring the financial advisor in for a meeting so he can go over all this with everybody so he understands. With the delay in the project, we're gonna need continuation of the short-term financing. But I think it's called a rollover. So it might mean that we can delay the payment into next year, which means we're gonna have to budget that, possibly a bond payment or other short-term financing next year, so it's gonna be a budget impact that we have to think about for next year. But the good news is we did put something in this year in case we do need it. A lot of the closing costs that we did pay for the short-term financing should be covered by the premiums and interest being earned. The short-term financing, it is running some money, every month. Don't quote me on how much, I can't remember right now, but, with $5 million in there, I think we're earning at least, let me say 10,000 a month, but which will help cover a lot, some of our costs, so.
Steve,
Mark, you sit in on the meetings with the HVAC, the committee. What percentage are we done and what is the outlook on completion?
we're putting a lot of pressure on the builder to actually complete the reinforcement infrastructure of the A-wing. That's probably the biggest frustration we've had, because we've been trying to get the A-wing done so we can button up the ceilings and get that giant sucking air flow problem you're having with that wing of the school. And we're actually stopped paying the contractor until we actually have scheduled production times and dates for when they're gonna be it, because we have a vacation holiday coming up for 2 weeks. And we're not satisfied that we have enough work being done in those 2 weeks.
Do you know why it's not being done?
I think what's happens is when we had such a big delay and lost the summer. Effort went to another school, is my guess, no one will say that, but I think if we have. Components of their team, not the full team. And there's been delays in getting all the ductwork shut with. Because when they come back in full force, they want to get everything done they can. And a lot of the ductwork is made and it's in a warehouse, but not all of them. And they're still going back and forth with the design teams as to exactly how to get everything fit in the spaces they have. So we're documenting all this because there will be, at the end of the day, the lawyers will be involved and will say, this is not our fault. You know, the bond issues will be hit.
So we have no projection, none whatsoever.
They still think they can hit it and have everything done by summer and wrapped up by fall.
Who's they, the
The
contractor?
contract,
Right, even though they're not working at any quick pace and they're not having a full board of people on there, they still think they're gonna get done by hopefully beginning of school.
right?
I mean, let's not kid ourselves.
Should they create a schedule? I need some.
That's why we stopped paying. We want a full schedule of the entire project.
I would say hire somebody else, but we're too far along in the process to do that. It's too far along, I get that.
Okay. Did you find the name of the tin man?
No.
We'll get that tomorrow, okay? Great. Can you ask Mike Sylvester the name of the, well, the sheet metal shop? Yeah, it's fine. We're gonna talk to Lingos, they're gonna get that. We're gonna get in a ring with these people, talk to Lingo, you know?
Mike Poole,
That Rowley Boo's father,
I think so, yeah.
just give me his contact info. Thank you, yeah, I got help with him, I'll be happy to make a visit. So.
Pressure, we do pressure like that.
Okay, so I'll move on to, the undesignated fund balance. I haven't gotten the audit report yet, so this is unconfirmed numbers, this is just based on what I came up with. If we look at this report, which kind of gives a kind of analysis of the fund balance. So as of June 30th, the undesignated fund balance was $4,066,000. Well, $4,066,000. Which came to about 19.57% of this year's budget requirement.
Which time?
Anyway. Since July 1, there has been some usage of the general fund. There was the $820,000 that was approved to pay down the million. So we had already taken 375, so we need another 400 and say $45,000, plus we did another 50. Out of general fund, that will bring the general fund down to about 17%, which is still. Yeah, then there's an.
Which is still.
Sorry, it's turned out it's down about 17%, which is still healthy, still above the
3.2. Or 17%.
17% of the.
Yeah, no. So how much is it? It's only small.
Yeah, go ahead, Jeff. It's about 3.2, yeah. Yeah. So it's about $3.2 million, right now, but then, again, we got the good news about the 90s, so we're about 2.3 now, so. It's a flux year, all depends on the rest of this, what the revenue comes in, so we'll spend it for the rest of the year, so we're still. In a good position, 15% is our, pretty much our minimum that we marked in our financial policies. It's also, still healthy for when we're going out with financing, so. We just have to keep an eye on our spending, but again, I know there's possibly projects and stuff coming down the road, so this could be a concern.
And also, as in years past, and many times, we have used the undesignated fund to bring down. The rise of the mill kept it low, because we've been able to take money out of it. At 3.2, we don't seem to have that cushion again.
Yeah, can we concern, but again, we have to see what the revenues are coming in and all that kind of stuff. So, we'll see, if you let her. Your time is on. Just water?
Yeah, that's fine. Sorry, I have 10.
Maybe it's water. Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyway, so yeah, this is, it's watching the undesignated fund balance. And the revenues and all that, plus upcoming, especially capital and projects, we're gonna have to keep an eye on. What we're gonna use in the potential increase in taxes. Last year, I think we kept it at 1.15, so we'll have to see, again, we have to.
But I think, Kelly, I'm gonna address this to you, because. Last year. When we did all our numbers, I don't think that. We knew what the surpluses were gonna be coming in, did we? And we certainly. See. So the $4 million.
Well, let me put you on that, when we do the budget background on the last page. There is an estimate of surpluses embedded in the budget document. There is, it wasn't. Yeah. It wasn't quite that high, but.
Right, so what I'm saying is. The 4 million. That we showed on 6/30/25. The 4 million that we showed. We didn't know we were going to have that much in. February, March, when we put together, and then when we went to the people of the town and said we want to take $820,000 under out of the undesignated fund to cut the mill rate. So.
It was 16.9.
So, okay, so we thought we were going to actually come back and our undesignated fund would have been around. 2.9, 2.7. Before we were right, 2.7, before we knew we were gonna get 1.3 surplus back on June 30th. Would we have gone that low?
Yeah, no, it was not that low, it was not gonna do that well, we knew we were getting some money back.
I think at the end of the meeting,
The 400,000 or something, and we were
we
getting
thought
back.
it was 18% and we went over it with the after, we met after the job, so.
So we knew that we weren't. gonna-
So when you found that out after the town meeting,
It was like an additional 1% of what we already knew.
because it was over 16 point. Over 16 point, I think it was 16.9.
So it's 16, I'm just trying to clear what I remember. So we're gonna be 16.9. And we knew we were gonna get some surplus, but we didn't know it was gonna be 1.3. Maybe we thought it was gonna be 500,000. So 16.9 with the added surplus of 500,000, which is not even 1 mil now. So that would have put it at maybe 17, but now we're at 19. What'd you say we're now? 19? So I think we're pretty fortunate that we had that much surplus because we'd be,
Yes, but we always know that we're gonna have a surplus. In addition to what we know is coming back, we know that we're always gonna be about a percent above on our collections. We don't know that, but we're relatively confident.
the 1.3 is a
And we
good surplus.
collectively, target 15%, we were not gonna go below that
I see.
in our.
I'm just, because I'm trying to look at these numbers and go,
The 1,000,003 is like twice what we thought. we're
right, all right,
getting. At least
Thank you.
twice, yeah.
And then next is the revenue state connected. So far, like I mentioned, the car grants coming in 30% higher. Everything else, we haven't heard otherwise that what we budgeted should come in from the state. We won't know about next year's budget until February, so, that's the state budget, we'll just have to debate with them on that, unless you have other information.
did we use our tar money last year? I thought, okay.
Right now, the plan is for sticking with what's budget unless something comes up and I might say the additional 30,000 is part of for next year. So. We'll see how it goes, as year goes on. Okay, so then next we'll look at education. In your packets, there should be 2 enrollment reports, one quarter and the other one is the high school lines. Opening one of those shoes. It's pretty much stays the same.
Unless there's any questions, I'll just refer now to talk Barb and she can talk about the special ed costs and the staffing.
So the kind of side of that, this report today, we are. The special education, you don't know who's coming in, who's going out. We had to add a half-time nurse, a full-time paraprofessional, and we're adding a full-time special education teacher as of this year. We have the nurse already, we have Tara already, we're working on the special education teacher. However, there is potential for this to be offset. The state is offering to improve special education. Their goal is to keep all students in their own districts. They're going to be giving us some money, the exact amount we don't know yet. But I think it's going to be, I'm guessing about 30 or 40,000. So it'll offset it a little bit. I'm not worried yet because again, numbers go up and down with students and tuition and special ed students. Our director is always looking to reduce costs without reducing outcomes. And then also there was an increase in our transportation line for unknown, it was an unknown need. If a student moves in with an IEP that requires transportation, if a student needs transportation for medical issues, if students are deemed homeless, we have to provide that transportation. So that's an increase. Good. But otherwise, we're right on track. I'm not worried yet. It's too early to know if it's going to be very.
So what's the cost overrun for the one full-time and one part-time that you already have, plus the estimate for the one special teacher?
So I always estimate, because I don't know if they're gonna take benefits or not. So I usually try to estimate like $75,000, which would be salary and benefits, that's the estimate I use.
For the
For
special ed teacher or?
a teacher, for the para, it's less, it's about 30 we usually use. And again, this won't be 75,000 because it won't be a full year, for a full year. The nurse is an hourly rate, competitive with other schools.
And that's not something that is less expensive to outsource
It's less expensive than to
than
outsource.
outsource, yeah, right?
Yeah, by talking it. An outplacement for one student can be well over.
No, that's not what I meant, I meant for having the nurse and, I'm not. As an employee versus
Oh,
having like
It is a much.
the cross, yeah, so.
Yes, you. Like an 8 or something. No.
Well, but they do it at the high school, it's always less expensive at the high school. So we see that on a regular basis, that our special ed costs go down when our kids go to high school because of the way they do it. They use a lot of outsourced staff, they don't have employees doing it, they have shared resources at the high school level.
So our three high schools, they have employees that are nurses.
They do, no, they have some, but there's a lot of them that are outsourced, outside resources that come into. As opposed to being full-time employees.
The per diem.
Our high schools do it that way, and this year, remember, we were able to get employees of our own to do our OT and our PT instead of outsourcing, which saved a lot of money. So,
So the part-time.
It's just that that's contrary to every other industry. So it's in the education, it's cheaper to have an employee. It seems like. Because I think that maybe it was back then while was the superintendent, I'm not sure, maybe it was back then, but there was, he explained the reason the costs were different at high school. Because our special ed costs would go down when our 8th graders went into the high school, often those special ed kids decreased, and he explained that the reason was the way that they staffed. Those special ed needs, the needs still exist, they just have different.
Special ed at high school are too, they're spread a little more thin at the high school. So the needs change in their IEPs when they get up to the high school level, so you could have one special ed teacher that has 30 kids on the caseload. You can't have that at the elementary level because of the type of things that are in the IEP. So you have less staff. And they're not teaching.
right, and also, depending on the student, you know. Again, some students now, not in our district, but other districts are hiring special ed staff for one student alone. Just a teacher, because it's less expensive than sending a student elsewhere. And Kelly and Judy, I'm happy, we want to give you a call, I'm even happy to talk to you about that further.
And I understand that fully because there's such a thin supply that supply and demand is driving up the cost of the front. Because all those companies that manage that operating through.
Any other questions?
Next in your packet, you'll see the mineral budget requirement reports. I gave you one for last year, and then another one for this year, since we use an idea to report that it's compliant and safe under the mineral budget requirement. The 500 year we've gone up a little bit, so that it's in compliance, and it's just for your reference. You have it, like during the budget process. And then next for the long range planning. So I'll turn it over to Mark and go over some things.
Three of the biggest items is a piece of paper next. Major public works infrastructure capital forecast. The PAs. We're working ever since we've had those huge rainstorms over the last 3 years. Where we get 3 to 5 inches of rain in one storm. We almost lost Pine Street and Thompson Hill. We lost half the roads. because the entire head wall won't cave in. Public Works was able to put them back together. So we've had them engineered and we were able to get a state bridge grant for Pine Street, which is a 50-50 grant. So the estimate from our engineers is $1,600,000 for that bridge replacement. And the state will pay $814,000, Columbia will also pay $814,000. So that's the 50-50. And then Thompson Hill, we were able to get a federal trip grant. The Thompson Hill, that's a 20, so it's a better grant. Columbia would be $1,479,000 estimated. Columbia will pay $259,000, state and federal $1,183,000. So between those two bridges, really big culverts. Columbia will spend $1.1 million, and the state and federal estimate is almost $2 million. So we have to actually, we're planning and strategizing right now with the engineering firm. They're submitting their plans that have gone through public hearing and brought in the resident concerns and factored them into the designs. These are residents that live next to the bridges and the driveways and sightline issues. That's all done. We're submitting those to DEP for final approval and state bridge for final approval. It's done. I think they're satisfied. State has to approve it. Then we can go out to bid. We want to go out to bid on these two bridges just to make sure that the estimates are correct. We don't want to go for a bond authorization and have them be off. So right now, it's timing. We have to decide when to, ideally, we go out to bid long before the building season, which is in the spring. It starts. Right now, we're a little late getting out to bid for this season. We still might go out to bid to see what the ones look like, but we might have to go out to bid and hit the next field season because it's very tough with water. We can only build at certain times of the year based upon fisheries and spawning and all sorts of things that are affected by bridge growth. Our next big project is Doubleday Road. With these huge rains, we also had sinkholes on Doubleday where the drainage infrastructure was rusted out under the road and the road was collapsing. So that is going to be a 2-phase project. That road's almost a mile long. And right now the estimate is at $1,750,000 to do all new drainage, all new catch basins, and a total road reclamation on Doubleday. We tried to get Doubleday reclassified based upon the increased traffic that's being used on Doubleday and Pine because it's more of a cut through between your highways. And we were able to increase the classification from rural to minor collector road, but we needed to get the major collector road in order to get a grant. I was trying to get it. So we're still looking for grant funding for Doubleday. So that's ongoing. But that's between those three projects, that's $2,850,000 that Columbia will have to fund through bond on top of our HVAC company. Just keeping you in the loop, that's all looming. And as we go down this road, we'll just keep planning, but we need to realize that there's some serious infrastructure upgrade that we're working on. Because if you wait and lose the road, your years of having a particle, you could on the street that whole area.
Mark, I have 2 questions if you don't mind. One, these Pine Street and Thompson Hill will be complete replacements, and then my second question is there any way that we can phase these over the next year or two? Like you mentioned, maybe going into the next, not this spring, but maybe 27.
So we're looking at phasing. The public works director is concerned that the longer you wait, that you're throwing the dice at another big storm event, we actually do lose the whole road. Because what happens is they're undersized and the water goes over each side, undermines the road and digs it out and it blows out.
Right.
is there any grant, like considerations here? Like, do we risk losing anything if we don't do them sooner rather than later?
You can't delay too long,
Okay,
the
like especially this 2081,
It's a 3-year grant,
that's a 3-year.
we're okay.
Okay,
we've already got an extension on the state grant, because we had that before we had the federal grant. So, as long as we keep all our paperwork up to date, and our engineers stay on top of everything, we'll get extensions just like we're doing with the atrium.
So you just. We're gonna try and take the engineering look at it and send it out for a bid. If the bid comes back close, fine, comes back way over. We're gonna look into the bid and find out why. Are they paying premiums? Are they asking us to pay premiums because they're so busy? Cause it's, they have to bring in other people. We're gonna look into it. And if it's so much, we'll have to consider rolling the dice and wait a year. So. But, there's concern about, the structures of the bridge, but. They're not going, but with some. To saves me a couple $100,000, they're fine. Look over there. Oh, so there.
Other than that project part,
So I dared an anatomy. So the HVAC project is big, in the short term, in the next, hopefully not year. We'll need to buy some, custodial equipment, some of our machines are breaking down. Down the road, we are one of our boilers. We're very fortunate to have the facilities manager that we have, who is very handy and very knowledgeable on mechanics. So when they suggest making this number up, spending, $10,000, he was like, what if we did this? And they're like, okay, you could do that. So he's always on top of that for that boiler. And then like future far away, we'll need to be looking at a building study, to see if all of our systems are fine. I think we're in pretty good shape. Very far, and then we'll also have to do a study on the parking lot down the road.
Hey, can I ask a question just on the numbers that are here? In 23-24, we had 475 students at in Porter. It's down to 445, 447.
Yeah.
Does that affect the MBR at all?
No.
Do we get relief on that? Because
It's to the doctor.
there might be a slight credit, but when if it's like credit, the state does the calculation, so they don't share it. But I think if you get more of a credit, I think it's in the high school, because it has to be dropping and pay commission out.
so the 24-25. Do you anticipate the enrollment in high school is going to drop by that same 30 students?
There's a big group going,
Right?
next year, the 8th grade is a bigger group going, but eventually the numbers you see for those grade levels will be going into high school.
You know when it's going to happen? When I'm long gone. Great. All the kindergartners there's only 20 of them. So 30. Who told you to remove them? Put back in.
I think the last one, agenda is the general, reserve, or everybody talk about the general fund, it's relatively healthy right now, mill rate is kind of way too early. We start talking about mill rate, because we haven't done the proposed budget. But again, it's just something that I think everybody should keep in the back of their minds, when budget to be presented, prepared, and discussed that, we'll have to consider what we're gonna consider is an increase for next year and whether we're gonna use reserves and stuff, but, I don't think I like to set that further, this.
When was-
For what we looked up.
When was the last mill rate increase?
Yes,
year.
mill rate 1.15. Yeah, it was 1.15 mill rate increase,
This year.
which was,
We've had in the last 2 years.
It was gonna be over, rated, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
And that didn't count for HVAC. Oh, so.
No, yeah, at that point, for sure, a lot of bond payments and the people that were anticipating is not in this year's budget. I don't think it's a 200,000, no. Bill that we have in June. So, we'll have to, it's all anticipated coming out. Okay, with that, Steve.
since we're going tonight.
Yes, 11 o'clock.
Okay, that's really all we have. Any questions? Any areas, questions or any areas you want specific people to dive into a little bit more that you're concerned about right now, because we'll go into these same details soon. Anybody? If that's the case, motion to adjourn. Right? Yeah, all those in favor, get out.
So if I have a meeting following this, the record you can ask. Yeah.
Listen, how many people have bought their tickets to the gala because they're going fast? I know you wanna be there, because if you're not there, I will remember you. I don't, it's the usual, I think we're taking everything out of it.
How many tickets over there? Oh,
I have no idea.
I don't trust the buying, but it's supposed to be that bad.
It's supposed to be 16.
Oh, there's.
Yeah, I think there was more in there, if you want, today.
How much? How many? Yeah. I'll make a mind tonight too. Thank you, Beth, for all the information.
This is a town of Columbia financial planning and allocation commission regular meetings on Wednesday, December 17th. It immediately follows the tri-board meeting. And the rules, meetings were video and audio recorded. All joining virtually will generally meet on mute. And right now, we don't have anybody requesting to come in. They may be manually ejected and upon recommendation from the person running the meeting. And if you have public input before the meeting, please email to publicinput@columbiacity.org 24 hours prior to the meeting. You may view the video recording of the meeting on YouTube at Town of Columbia CT. Please allow 48 hours for the video to be published.
Okay, I'm gonna call the meeting to order at 8:20. Because we did the pledge of allegiance, we'll dispense with it, now, before we go to our board. Before we get started, I would like to welcome our new member, Maria Graham. Thank you, we're happy to have you. Do you wanna say 2 words about yourself?
Sure.
Introduce yourself.
Sure. Well, thank you for having me. I'm glad to be joining the group. I was, as many president on board of education for last year, so I have to bring some knowledge from that experience here. Yeah, just looking for
Okay, so audience of citizens, seeing none, we'll move on to approval of the minutes. They were in our correspondence. Is there any questions or comments or changes on the November 19 minutes? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve? I really approve the minutes as presented.
I second.
Second. Any further comment? All those in favor?
Uh,
Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Any abstentions?
7,
Gloria, you abstained.
so 6, yes, 0, negative, and 1 abstention.
Yes. Okay, we have the correspondence. Did anyone have any questions or comments about that? No question. Very good, these minutes. Okay. We have no old business, so the first order of new business is the election of new officers. We had an election in November. And so by the December meeting, we have to have an election of officers. So the position of chair and vice chair. So I'll start with the chair. Are there any nominations for the position of chair?
I nominate Judy Jordan for chair.
Who was that? Yeah. Okay, any other nominations? Okay.
Are you gonna take it?
She said she, I said.
Okay, well, I was gonna nominate Kelly.
All right. So there are two nominations, what do? You have to do one at a time?
We, folks. Now why you think you'd be the best, and then we have the vote.
Can I say what you do?
Should we do one at a time?
Okay, one at a time. All right, so Judy was the first nominee. Oh, well, there's a second then. There not. I guess there needs to be a second to Judy too, right? Or is it just a nomination?
I don't think that's the second nomination.
I don't need a second, no, just a nomination.
Well,
It's not a vote. I think if you just nominate, then the nominee could just say like accept or accept. That's like the second, they accept, that's the second.
Yeah, and then we vote, okay.
Like a vote.
Move on to say why you want it, and then they vote, whether you want it by piece, paper ballot or they hold.
No.
Then I think both, everybody knows both of us. Go ahead, why don't we just have a vote, Judy's nominated first, all those in favor of Judy?
Sure.
And Judy's is.
You go first, all.
Think so.
Yeah.
How many is that? Four to three. So then. Judy's up, will be our new chair.
So John, that
After
four
the
votes.
January meeting. Or
Agree.
back to the against.
Great.
All right, so then the position of vice chair, is there any nominations?
I'd like to nominate Kelly for motion.
Okay. Any other nominations? Okay. Seth, I look at Seth. Are there? Those in favor?
Big nominee. Yes.
Yes, okay. All right. So then, effective, for the next meeting. All right. Try board to follow up in discussion, is there any?
I think
Discussion?
it's very early.
I'm only concerned that, we're gonna have so much expenditures on the town side and we're gonna have the HVAC. I'm really concerned that. It's just gonna be hard to fund much for the Board of Education this year. They usually spend, 5-7%. Down too much, I think.
I agree.
Right,
And then I feel that. Pass, I can go on.
yeah.
Or, right?
No, I'm still they understood
I see
Steve's
Steve's.
that we have the old town needs. And I mean, a huge $3 million local line. Somebody's, if your roof blows off your house, just get vacation that year, and we have to find ways to cut
The HVAC we set to be 9, we put it, last meeting, we put it in over 10 potentially,
it.
yeah, so I mean, that takes away even more. We don't,
I don't know.
we don't know
We won't know, but
Yeah.
it's certainly in the range, right?
Any additional grant money for HVAC? I know we have.
They looked at, because, Kathy Austin's looking at, and I think, there's somebody else who's looking at the state about if there's additional funds to, stay in place where we're getting a grant from, but I doubt it, but
Coventry, Jackson, Detroit.
there's.
You go.
There's too many of these projects going at the same time, but and some down now.
Trying to sell the market for the service.
Then the other question I quickly had, if they're on another school project somewhere else. How do we get them back to finish this project?
Well, that's.
That's what
We
we're.
have no, we have no, yeah.
No, I mean, they essentially, that's why we have the problem, they had delays in getting their design, if they said, well, I'm not gonna keep people standing around, so they started another project, so.
Right.
I think today, they had a few more people working there, so I think they're trying to just kind of schedule and. They have some contractors who go off to move done, that's why we haven't gotten some things done. So it's the night of the
Pass stuff all over.
so it just keeps passing and unfortunately, we're the luck looking last.
So, all right, well, I don't know that we need to talk much about the 25-26 budget process. I mean, the January meeting we won't even have budgets until March. So we're gonna get through the next couple of meetings and then we'll start talking about it.
Just so you know, mine was gonna work with departments.
To zoom on that, just so that I could have one less meeting or something. Yeah, good. Okay.
Are the Board of Selectmen, budget workshops, are those
Open?
open?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, we encourage.
There's no audience of citizens, but you can listen on discussion unless something comes up, maybe you can get recognized, but you can sit on it and just listen.
The Board of Education as well.
Yeah.
That budget.
Yeah,
It's
more about their transfers that I've got concerned.
MDR.
And they do those in a closed meeting. I don't think those are open meetings. Where they discuss their transfers.
You get to that, maybe.
You can come to their budget subcommittee meetings. It's published meetings. You can come to those. Yes, but they don't do minutes. They don't produce minutes. I think they're supposed to.
Might want to decide if you have a liaison that you
Yeah.
would want to go.
From anybody.
Yeah.
Art used to be the liaison.
Yeah. But they're not covered. They're supposed to. I do, yeah. And it's a duty provided to us. So, yeah. We shouldn't have to go find the information. The information should come to us.
You know, in the minutes from the past, I noticed on the town website for all of, November and so forth, there's mostly no minutes posted for any department. I was just wondering when those actually get posted.
Well, they definitely go once they're approved, but I don't know if do we normally put them up as draft? Or do we wait?
Sometimes there are draft minutes up there, but I know there's supposed to be motions or something.
Motions have to go up in 24 hours. And then normally it's the next meeting, you approve the minutes and they go up.
Oh, yeah, because we just approved it tonight.
Yeah.
So there usually would be a month.
But then like other, so forth.
Yeah. Could be wrong. Yeah, approving in December. Oh, check into. Okay, so, any other issues about the initial process discussion? So then the approval of the proposed revisions to the financial policies received a copy in our packet. If anybody has questions or comments, we can make them. Yeah, and if nobody has questions or comments, I would entertain a motion to approve that as. They're just two quick things. We got rid of the range for the
undesignated fund balance, instead of having a range of 13 to 18, we made it to a minimum of 15% that we try, that's the goal every year. We did talk to the financial advisor, he agrees, the range was too confining.
Would also have a problem if you went over, what do you do now that your fund balance is 20%? And you set it as a maximum of 18.
and we
I'd rather it be sitting in there than,
Yeah, and then we do have little notes in here about what's the plan. It just means if we go over or under, this is where 5-pack or where the board of selectmen about a plan of action to either replenish or make use of those funds, whether it's capital or, you know, the mill rate and all that kind of stuff. So, but the federal said, you know, because basically with the financing and stuff, the standard was kind of like a minimum, so we went along with that. The other one is a little more, he suggested that we didn't have what's called an affordability factor when we're going out for debt. But these are just some of the stipulations. He did review it and he said, this is great, this is what he was looking for, so just move forward, we're to get formalized, and then when we go out next year, we can at least have a final draft out there, all approved ahead of time, and but he definitely said, yes, go with this.
Okay. Draft of the financial policy statement. Draft.
No, this is the final version. So what happens is you have to approve it, and then we have to take it to the board of selectmen for final approval. So we just need your blessing to, a motion to approve the changes and move it to the board of selectmen for approval. How about that?
Yeah, that motion is in.
I'll make that motion.
Steve.
You better write that down. I didn't get any of it. We gotta get it to Jen. I think we're back to recording. We just died for that whole conversation, but I
Okay.
think we're back on.
Move the draft and move to BS for final approval.
Yes. Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? Abstentions? Okay.
I think, all right, so I'm gonna say Judy motion, and who seconded it?
Steve motioned and Jim said.
Okay, perfect.
Right now.
I don't know, I was tired.
All right, it's late, so we gotta go. All right, last thing is transfers.
We are having,
Yay.
So our next meeting is January 21st, which is as always the third Wednesday at 7 here in the conference room over there. All right, who's gonna be the new art? Motion to adjourn.
I think I moved.
It's always our motion to adjourn. All right, Steve, so moved.
second.
Dick.
What time is it?
8:34.
34 PM,
And who motioned?
Steve, and then Dick. Well, happy holidays.
Happy holiday. Have to acknowledge he did 90% of the writing of the policy.
Who's the most boring?
Yeah.
It's very important. Oh, wait a minute.
Dick.